Okay, so let's start this video with one of the more common theories surrounding the deaths of Tucker, Tate and Rolfe. And this comes in the form of how these bodies are actually discovered, their body positions upon the discovery of the Range Rover. We had Craig Rolfe with his hands on the steering wheel, we had Pat Tate who was slumped across the back seat, and then we have Tony Tucker whose chin is pointed downwards but his head is actually leaning to the right. Now, this is what a lot of people struggle with. They believe that a lot of this gunfire emanated from the off side of the vehicle, from the right hand side of the vehicle, most likely the back rear door, driver's side. And naturally, if you're struck in the side of the face, the right side of your face, your head should naturally move to the left. Now, this little detail here has actually sparked quite a lot of theories over the years, but probably the most common one comes in the form of Tony Tucker actually being shot outside of the vehicle and then propped back inside the Range Rover. Hence the reason his head is actually leaning to the right when really it should be leaning to the left. Now, many of you will remember the summing up in court documents. That is basically the judge who goes through the entire case to the jury. It's a very, very thorough and in-depth document. And in that document, they had some professionals, some forensic professionals who gave their opinion on the gunshot wounds of each individual. And it actually turned out that the head can actually swing. Now, I know that sounds absolutely horrendous, but we have to put this out there because this is basically what the professionals have said. Basically, you can be hit from the right-hand side. Your head can actually swing to the left, back to the right. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Tucker's head should have been to the right, even though he was hit from the right, if that makes sense. So let's just quote directly from that summing up in court document. It states that Tucker's head was resting on his right shoulder. There was a shotgun wound to the head and the head may swing. So basically, as I said, it's saying that the shot comes from the right, the head goes to the left, back to the right, and that is entirely possible. Yet, that, as I said, that has created quite a lot of debate, quite a lot of theories about Tucker being shot outside the vehicle. Now, when I hear about these theories, these more, I guess outlandish is the right word, these sort of outlandish theories, my first thought is, well, what purpose does that serve to the perpetrator or the person committing this crime? What benefit would it serve to actually shoot someone outside of the vehicle, but then prop them back up inside the vehicle? It's not like they're worried about them being cold or something outside. They're dead, aren't they? There's no reason to put them back inside the vehicle. I guess, yeah, and I would ask anyone who has an idea or a theory to try and work out exactly what purpose that would serve. And I mean, could you imagine how difficult it would be, let alone anything else, but how difficult it would be to pick up someone like Tony Tucker, an absolute dead weight, and put him back inside that vehicle? I mean, there would be scuff marks outside the vehicle. There would be some sort of physical forensic evidence of them dragging a body, for one thing. There would be marks outside the vehicle, I would imagine. There would be something to tell us that, okay, he was probably shot outside and then put back inside the vehicle. I hear talk about there's blood in the puddles. Well, we know why that is, because it's actually on a downward gradient. So anything that comes out of the vehicle, for instance, Tate's head wound, his head is against the window, blood is seeped down into puddles. Those puddles fall, obviously, and the water runs downwards towards the gate. Hence the reason that you've got puddles of blood in front of the Range Rover. Another one of the more out there theories that I've heard over the years concerns Tucker, Tate and Rolfe being killed elsewhere than the killer driving the vehicle. I'm not kidding, this is genuinely what I've heard. The killer driving the Range Rover with Craig Rolfe sat on his lap. Now, I've actually heard that as a possibility. And again, why? What purpose would it serve to kill them elsewhere and then drive them on a snowy evening down to a farm track and leave the vehicle there? Because they haven't left any forensic evidence there anyway. They haven't tried to burn the vehicle, burn the bodies and destroy all of the evidence. They're clearly not that concerned about what they've left behind because the vehicle is in one piece when it's discovered. They haven't tried to torch the vehicle or anything like that. So they're not that concerned by what has been left behind. So what purpose would it serve to kill them elsewhere and then run the risk of being discovered with 3 dead bodies inside a Range Rover, whether that's transporting it via low loader, or even the killer driving the vehicle with Craig Rolfe on his lap? I mean, I can't even believe that. But seriously, I've genuinely had that as a genuine possibility in this case, that Craig Rolfe was actually sat on the lap of the killer, and the killer drove the vehicle down to the bottom of Workhouse Lane. Now, one of the more plausible theories regarding the Essex Boys case does again come in the form of Tony Tucker and the bottom of his boots. We know that the bottom of his boots contained a certain amount of mud, which was also transferred into the front passenger seat footwell. And that mud looks the same as that on the tyre walls of the Range Rover and that found down the lane. So in my mind, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that at some point in time, Tucker has actually exited the vehicle and then got back inside. I don't believe that the Range Rover simply pulled up to this locked 5-bar gate and then within 10 seconds or so, the shooting began. I think the fact that we have this telephone call between Pat Tate and Sarah Saunders, which lasts multiple minutes, and the fact that we have those little indicators such as Tucker's boots, for example, that there's every possibility that the Range Rover was down the lane for a certain amount of time before these executions began. So now it's time for me to throw my tinfoil conspiracy hat into the ring, shall we say. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a conspiracy theory of my own. Now, this does actually involve some level of guilt in terms of Michael Steele, Jack Holmes and Darren Nichols. We're going to go based largely on the events which were told in court, basically. And that is the fact that Steele and Holmes were at the crime scene, Darren Nichols was there also. And what I want to draw your attention to, first of all, is the police statement of Donna Jaggers. It's in her statement, Donna Jaggers being the long-term girlfriend of Craig Rolfe, the driver of the Range Rover. It's in her statement that she states that Michael Steele had gone to Holland to collect the money, or take the money and bring the drugs back, basically. There was snow on the ground and it was causing a delay. Now, I've got a theory that Michael Steele was never in the Range Rover. He was not in the back of the Range Rover, he didn't travel in the Range Rover, and he wasn't, most definitely, driving the Range Rover. I believe that if Michael Steele and Jack Holmes were actually responsible for these murders, I think there's every possibility here that they really did believe that Michael Steele was in Holland. That someone like Darren Nichols was actually in the back of the Range Rover, with Michael Steele and Jack Holmes both waiting down the lane that evening. The reason I say that is because we had a certain level of threat from Pat Tate towards Michael Steele. And Michael Steele, think about this logically for one moment. Is he really going to travel in the Range Rover? Is he really going to risk leaving his DNA, maybe some clothing fibres, maybe a hair? You know, this is dark. You're not going to be able to find anything that you drop, potentially, in that vehicle. You could leave something by accident. You could touch something by accident. And then you've got Jack Holmes waiting down the bottom of the lane with a shotgun. Let's just say, for instance, you touch a part of the interior of that Range Rover, or one of the individuals, either Tucker, Tate or Rolfe. And then you think to yourself, oh, shit, what am I going to do about this? It's all too late, isn't it? I don't think anybody in their right mind would actually risk travelling down in that Range Rover before committing triple murder. I believe, and I think I'm going to combine this with something else in one moment. I believe that they really did think that Michael Steele was in Holland, that he had gone abroad and they were either going to fly the stuff over that evening or they were down there to look at a potential landing spot. Not a landing spot for the plane necessarily, but a place to actually drop the drugs. Now, what tells me that this is a distinct possibility is the fact that Pat Tate, at least Pat Tate, thought that he was coming into money imminently. I'm not talking about in a few days' time or in a week's time. He was speaking to Barry Dorman and said, look, I don't really need this car, but I'm going to buy it off you for cash. I'm coming into loads of money. Don't worry about it. I'll sort it out tomorrow. They had this meal booked, the celebration meal. Everything tells me they believed they were coming into money that evening. And what better way to actually believe that than if you actually truly believed that Michael Steele wasn't even in the country? He was in Holland, he's bringing the stuff back. We had the telephone call from just outside Jack Wome's workplace. I mean, how difficult would it be for Womes or someone else to ring up Tucker and Tate that afternoon and say, look, Mick's on his way back. I've just had a phone call from Mick. Can you pick up Darren Nichols from the pub? He's going to show you where the lane is. That way you get Jack down the lane, Mick's down the lane. It's this element of surprise, isn't it? It's the element of surprise. You've got Nichols travelling down there in the Range Rover. He's leading the way, showing the way down to the bottom of the locked 5-bar gate. And also bear in mind, something that's just come to my mind, the fact we also have that eyewitness account, don't we, of someone wearing a light fawn-coloured top in the back of the Range Rover, who, when that Range Rover starts moving down Workhouse Lane, takes a cheeky glance over his shoulder, looking back towards the road to see if anyone's following them, potentially. And it just so happened that the defence actually found a photograph with Darren Nichols wearing such a top, as described by that eyewitness. So is it beyond the realms of possibility that Darren Nichols was actually in the back of the Range Rover, leading Tucker, Tate and Rolfe to their doom? Also remember, another thing that's just literally just popped into my head. We had this protected witness, didn't we, with the protected witness unit. Someone who had spent a lot of time with Darren Nichols. He said that Darren Nichols had said to him, in his own words, that he was waiting by some farm gates when the shootings took place. Is it beyond the realms of possibility that actually Darren Nichols travelled down in the Range Rover, directed them to the bottom of Workhouse Lane, where laying in wait were both Michael Steele and Jack Womes? It's this, as I said earlier, element of surprise, isn't it? If Michael Steele had any concerns for his safety, for his well-being in terms of getting into the Range Rover or leaving any DNA evidence, then what better thing to do than just say, I'm going abroad, I'm bringing the stuff back. Jack then calls them up that afternoon, says Mick's on his way back. Can you pick up Nichols from the pub? He's going to show you where the lane is. You know, how hard would that have been? And as I said, the element of surprise. I have always found that part of Donna Jagger's statement quite interesting. The fact that it clearly states there that Mick has gone to Holland. He's got the money, he's gone to Holland, and they're waiting for the snow to clear. Anyway, let me know what you believe happened on the evening of December the 6th. Let me know what you think about that potential theory. And as always, many thanks for joining me for this particular video. As always, there will be the Essex Boys playlist in front of you shortly if you wish to check out other videos concerning this case. Many thanks for joining me for this one. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. And that's a firework, because it's fireworks night. Goodbye.